I'm going to have to speed up here. This brings me back to my singing days. Does anyone fancy a song instead? Kind of hoping you're all half cut by now anyway. So I am Angie Doran. I work for Glasgow City Council. We are not all bad, just saying. We are promoting self-build within the city, and that's what I was brought in to do. So anyone can self-build. I've done it 3 times with no construction background, so it is something that really should be open to everyone, and it's a really good thing to do, which is what I'm going to talk about today. Except now I've got longer than my 20 seconds. That seemed to go very quickly and now very slowly. So it's people-led. This is Rust that you can see here. They're a community-led organisation down in London where they are building collectively, which is a really, really good thing to do. Obviously, it goes against our standard housing system, which is developer-led, but it makes more sense to have a bottom-up approach, which is why people-led is a good thing. It's also an individual thing. People build what they want to, obviously within planning restrictions. And it means that every house is different. As you can see here, there's some examples here from Almira, these 2 here, and then that's just a standard self-build down south. So the idea is that every house doesn't look the same. It's not a big soulless development, which is what we're used to at the moment. So it's got to be good, hasn't it? Also, it is affordable. These statistics here really speak for themselves. So before the housing boom, that's what a standard house would cost you, is £96,000. It's gone up to 228, which is a massive increase, while wages have not. Wages have only gone up from 21,000 to 29,000, which means that a lot of people cannot afford to buy a house. So we need to do something about that, and self-build is 30% generally cheaper than buying a house off the shelf. It's also sustainable. This is a Fintorn here, which is a community with the lowest carbon footprint in the developed world. It's an intentional community. So self-builders tend to, as John said earlier, build more sustainably because they're going to live in the community themselves. And they're also building a community at the same time, especially if you're building as a group. But even self-builders next to each other tend to think more about their neighbours. They work together and they can build a community like this one in Ashley Vale, which is in Bristol, which is a fantastic community-led development, which was working against a standard developer-led development, which was meant to be there. They bought it over, community rights by 53%. So 53% of people would like to build their own home if they have the chance. That's a statistic from the Building Societies Association. So why are they not doing it? Obviously, developers are doing something wrong, so we need to change that. We need to encourage people to do self-build, and we need to do that by making it easier. If we look at these statistics here, you can see that we are the lowest, the UK there. Now, the Netherlands next to it, we're as low as us. They've taken that into consideration. They've made some changes, and that's why they've managed to double the amount of self-build completions over the last few years. So why are we not doing it? We do have a history in Scotland originally of doing a lot of self-build, especially up in the Highlands and Islands, but we're not doing it anymore. So how can we make it easier? We can provide land at an affordable rate. We can help bring in more funding. After the recession, the funding disappeared, so a lot of people could not do self-build. When I did my first one in 2002, I did a 95% mortgage. You can't get that anymore. So we needed to work to try and bring in more funding. Also, planning. A lot of people are put off by planning because it can be a difficult thing. Certainly they envisage it as being. So Almira, this is what they did in the Netherlands to try and change things. They were fed up with developers not doing anything. So when the recession hit, so they decided to turn it over to the community and see what they could do. And this is what they've done here. It's actually finished now. That's from 2015. But the development's incredible. I've been out a few times over the years, and it's a great example. Germany, as mentioned here, this is a Baugruppen project where they actually build flats. So a lot of people see self-build as being individual houses. It's not. It can be built by groups, and it can be flats, which means that we can have it in our city centres. We can have it really anywhere. It's an option for anywhere really in the community. England have even beaten us now. It's ridiculous. So we were 12% self-build completions. We're now down to 8. They're up to 12, so they've taken it over, and that's because they brought in legislation. They brought in a Right to Build Act, which made a lot of differences there. It meant that councils had to have registers. It meant that they had to make land available for self-build for the people who showed demand. And this is Cherwell District Council's Gravenhill. You'll have seen it on Grand Designs if you're watching it just now. So what are we doing in Glasgow? We've set up a register, the first in Scotland, to see what the demand is. And from that, really from very little advertising, there's over 200 people on my register. It's getting more and more and more all the time. And the demand that we see in Glasgow, we're going to make plots available for. We've made that commitment. So this is our pilot here in Batascan Street, which is 6 service plots. This was to test the market, and it was so popular that we're going to be releasing lots more sites of service plots, and we're trying to make it sustainable, we're trying to make it affordable, we're trying to deal with all the barriers that have stopped people doing self-build up till now. So this is the cost. This is probably why they're so popular. So they're between £40,000 and £50,000, which, yes, it's not maybe affordable for absolutely everyone, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than anything else you will get in Scotland right now. And it's in a city. There's very few self-build plots that are released in cities, so we've made it fixed prices. We didn't want competition. We wanted it to be fixed so people could allow for their budget. We've also been working on finding more funding. We've been working with Build Store to bring in more lenders. There was about 2 or 3 lenders when I first came into this post, and now there's about 9 in Scotland. That's mostly Build Store, not me. We've also worked with the credit union to set up savings schemes because there's obviously a time period before people start self-building. They can save up during that time and hopefully get low-cost lending for the rest of it. We've also simplified planning. This is our design code, which we've borrowed from Almira and also from Gravenhill. It's a simplified approach to planning, which means that people just have to have their planning compliant rather than going through a full planning application. So anyone can get that sent out if they're interested. Just approach me and I'll send it out to you. It has made a difference. The architects found it easy to use. So our self-build programme, we've set up as a result of this. We'll be releasing 4 more sites for self-build this year. And we're hoping, as I said, to have a rolling programme of releasing more and more and more each time, like the Netherlands have done, so that people, if they're interested in self-build, they can find somewhere to build. It might not be Newton Mearns or anything, but it's going to be like in areas of the city where people do want to live. And this is just a reminder that it is about people. It's people-led. It's power to the people. We should be building from the bottom up. We shouldn't be doing things to people. We should be encouraging them to build what they want and to build a sustainable community at the same time. That's me.